The first question is, I'm trying to do Atma-vichara but often fail. Surrender also is not working smoothly, because when I think I have surrendered my will, something happens and I realize that I have not progressed. But there is the faith and the conviction that this is the right path and the most worthy aim one can ever aspire to. Then can one still gain liberation or self-realization, depending on the sincere, honest, wholehearted desire for it, wanting it profoundly and honestly?
Yes, certainly. The road to success is paved with failure. If you have never failed, you will never succeed. Any undertaking, any worthy undertaking, we will inevitably fail along the way. But however many times we fail, we continue trying. As Bhagavan said, the sign of progress is perseverance. So failing doesn't matter. As Bhagavan says, for example, in the 6th paragraph of Nana, however many thoughts rise, so what? When thoughts rise, what does that mean? That means our attention has moved away from ourselves towards something else. So the thought has arisen. No thought can arise without our attention leaving ourselves. So every thought that rises in our mind is a failure. So we are failing moment by moment by moment. But just because we're failing doesn't mean we shouldn't continue trying. Bhagavan often said this spiritual path is a battle being fought within our own heart between Satvasana and all our Vishaya vasanas. Satvasana is the Sat means being. So the inclination to seek happiness in our being, the inclination to surrender ourselves, to subside, to just be as we are. And we can surrender ourselves and just be as we are only by investigating ourselves. So the inclination to investigate ourselves, that is Satvasana. The inclination to attend to anything else is a Vishaya Vasana. So there are numerous Vishaya Vasanas we have. And because of, through so many, we've been cultivating these Vishaya Vasanas through crores of Janmas, through countless lives. So they seem to have a strength. But of course, whatever strength they have is the strength we have given them by allowing ourselves to be swayed by them. So we can weaken them only by turning within and thereby not allowing ourselves to be swayed by them. The more we turn within, the more we are thereby strengthening the Satvasana and weakening the Vishaya Vasanas. But this is a struggle. This is not an ordinary undertaking. We as Bhagavan says in verse 26 of Ulludunaptu, if ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. If ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. Ego itself is everything. Therefore, investigating what this ego is overdal yabamenor. We can take it, we can translate it loosely as is giving up everything. But a more correct meaning is the cessation of everything. So everything will cease if we investigate ourselves. So investigating ourselves means giving up everything, bringing an end to all these crores of so many endless worlds and dreams and samsara, call it what you may. It will all come to an end. As Bhagavan said, in 1945, shortly after the news had come about the atom bomb being dropped on Hiroshima, Bhagavan said, when the atom bomb of jnana falls, all the crores of worlds will be destroyed by it, like a pile of cotton would be destroyed by a single spark. So this is a very, very great undertaking. We must be willing to give up everything in order to succeed in this path. And of course, we're not yet willing to do so. That's why it seems difficult. That's why we seem to fail. whether we call it self-investigation or self-surrender, it's the same thing. Both are equally easy and equally difficult. The truth is they are extremely easy. They seem to be difficult because of our unwillingness. So whatever difficulty we face is difficulty we are creating for ourselves by our unwillingness to let go, by our unwillingness to surrender ourselves. Because in order to turn our attention within, we must be willing to surrender ourselves completely. Because when we turn our attention within, ego thereby subsides. So if ego is not willing to subside, it will not be willing to turn within. So this is a very great undertaking, a hugely ambitious undertaking, but we will certainly succeed. Bhagavan has assured us. Those who have been caught just like the prey that has been caught in the jaws of a tiger can never escape. But those who have been caught in the glance of gurus of grace will certainly be saved and never forsaken. He gives that assurance very emphatically in the 12th paragraph of Nana. But he adds, Eninum guru kartiya varipari tabaradu nadakavendam. Nevertheless, it is necessary to walk unfailingly according to the path shown by Guru. So we have to try our best to turn our attention within and to surrender ourselves. Trying our best is all we can do. Everything else will be taken care of by him. But we have to do our little bit. Just like the squirrel at Sedu Bandhu. I don't know if you are familiar with that story in the Ramayana, when that bridge was being built to Lanka, so that Rama and his army could go to rescue Sita from Ravana. That bridge was being built. The monkeys and so many other big animals were bringing big boulders and putting them in the sea to make that bridge. The little squirrel, it also wanted to do its little bit. So it came and picked it up a little bit, it put its stone there. Like that squirrel, we must do our little bit. The real work is being done by Bhagavan, by Aruṇācala. But we have to do our little bit. And Rama was so pleased with the squirrel that he stroked it on the back. And that is why squirrels in India all have 3 lines on the back. That is the story. But the significance of that story is what we are doing may seem very insignificant to us. Our attempts to turn within, our attempts to surrender may seem to be incredibly feeble. Doesn't matter. If we do our little bit, everything else will be done by him. But we have to do our little bit. And we will be made to do our little bit by him. Why did you make me think of you? So it's he who makes us, any effort we make to investigate ourselves or surrender ourselves, it is he who is making us do that. So let us rely on his grace, with confidence in his grace. Let's not have confidence in our ability. If it depended on our ability, failure would be assured. But because it depends on grace, success is assured. But we need to be willing to depend on grace. We need to be willing to give ourselves to grace. We need to be willing to cooperate with grace. How do we cooperate with grace? By not rising as ego. How do we not rise as ego? By turning our attention within. So we have to do our little bit. Everything else will be done by him. So if we are trying our best, if we are earnest and sincere in trying to be self-attentive as much as possible, success is assured. Even if we are not being sincere, he will make us do so. But the more if we want to reduce the pain, the more we cooperate, the more you cooperate with the doctor, the less painful the operation will be. If you're constantly kicking and struggling when the doctor's trying to take the thorn out of your foot, you're just making it more difficult for yourself. So if we keep quiet and surrender ourselves to him, it will be a painless operation. So it's up to us whether we want to prolong the pain or whether we want to yield ourselves to him. So all we can do is try our best to yield ourselves to him. He will take care of everything else. That's the message that comes loud and clear in every verse of Akṣaramaṇamālai. So it's all a matter of we do our little bit, everything else is done by him. The real work is done by him, but we have to cooperate because his grace isn't something coming from outside. It's working from within our heart. So he's drawing our mind within. We must be willing to let him draw our mind within. If we insist on sending the mind outwards, then we are resisting his grace. So we have to yield ourselves to his grace as much as we can. I hope that's an adequate answer to that question.
The next question is, after practicing Bhagavan's teaching for more than 40 years, why haven't you been swallowed up by our true nature? Is there hope for us? Thank you.
Someone asked Bhagavan towards the end of his life, his bodily life, is there hope? Bhagavan said, yes, there is hope. There is always hope because Bhagavan is ever shining in our heart as eye. Why we haven't been swallowed by him yet? Because we haven't yet given ourselves wholly to him, because we are not yet willing to do so. But how to become willing to do so? We need to persevere in following this path, trying our best. Doesn't matter whether it takes 40 minutes or 40 hours or 40 years or 40 lifetimes. We can only, if you're traveling on a journey, you can only travel from a place where you are now. So we know the direction in which we're to travel. That is to go back within. From wherever we stand now, whether we are 400 lifetimes from it or whether we are 4 seconds from it, doesn't matter. The direction in which we need to go is to go within. Let us go within, leave everything else to Bhagavan. Let it take 100,000 years, 100,000 lifetimes, doesn't matter. So long as we're moving in the right direction, that's all that matters. It will all be over very quickly. Even if it's another 100,000 lifetimes, that'll all be over very quickly. Because for us, time is real. For Bhagavan, time is unreal. So he will finish us off very quickly.
The next question, how does Giri Pradakshina, that is going around Arunachala, help one in their spiritual practice? Sadhu Om sings to Arunachala, saying he does not know any other effective means other than going around Arunachala continuously. What effect does Giri Pradakshina have on one's mind? Other Jnanis have sung in praise of Arunachala that Arunachala steals the karma of those who go around him.
Yes, but how do we get rid of karma? So long as Bhagavan says in verse 38 of Uludunapadu, if we are a doer of actions, we have to experience the resulting fruit. So we can, karma can be brought to an end only by bringing an end to ego, who is the doer of karma and the experiencer of the fruit of karma. So the destroying karma means destroying ego, and that is the special Arunachala speciality is destroying ego. So how going around Arunachala helps in this process, our mind cannot adequately understand, but it is a fact. If we go round, Arunachala is that light of pure awareness. It is always shining in our heart as eye. But our minds are going outwards, so we fail to recognize that. But the more we go round Arunachala, the more the mind will subside and be drawn within. See, earlier I explained what Bhagavan said in verse 10 of Arunachala Patikam. Bhagavan said, mere thought of Arunachala is sufficient. So when you're walking around Arunachala, are you not thinking of Arunachala? So this is how Arunachala works. We cannot adequately understand, because Arunachala is, though outwardly it appears to be Arivaru Giriyana, it appears as a hill devoid of awareness, but actually I think one of the Jnana Sambandha or Appa Swamigal or maybe Sundaramurti, I don't know, one of the three of them, referred to sang of Aruṇācala, Jnana Tiralai Nindra Peruman, over great Lord who stands as a vast mass of jnana. So in our view, it's a hill of rock. In the view of these great jnanis, it's a hill of jnana. So the power of Aruṇācala cannot be understood by the mind, but it has a power. Bhagavan has made that very, very clear in so many verses. Bhagavan set the example. Bhagavan went round, did Giri Pradakshina so many times, setting an example to us. And that was one thing he always encouraged people to do. So those of us who have been blessed to go round Aruṇācala will have experience of benefit. I mean, I by the immense grace of Bhagavan, I lived in Tiruvallurmalai for nearly 20 years, and almost every day I went round the hill. And the effect of that, of course, you don't see an immediate effect, but a very subtle effect is seen. I would say now to me, Bhagavan's teachings seem so clear and so simple. It's like when people are asking me questions, how am I able to answer these questions? Just somehow it seems clear to me, but Bhagavan's given us all the answers in Akṣaramaṇamālai and Uladunapadu and Nana, Rupadeshwanda, in his works, he's given us all the answers. But to see the answers there, we need a certain inner clarity. If at all I have got any clarity, I would say it is in no small measure due to the fact that I was blessed to go round Aruṇācala so many times. It does have an effect. But of course, we can't understand how this works, how walking around this hill that appears to be just a hill like any other hill, a hill of rock, how that has an effect of creating that inner clarity. Of course, our mind cannot understand, and our mind need not understand. Bhagavan, when someone was doubting about the efficacy of Giri Pradakshina, saying, does it really work? Can it really benefit you? Bhagavan said, whether you believe it or not, if you touch fire, it will burn you. Likewise, whether you believe it or not, if you go around this hill, it will burn you. At least it'll burn away the foundations of ego. Well, ego is the foundation of everything, but I mean, it undermines ego. It has that effect. So definitely going around Aruṇācala is a great aid in this path. That there's no, all I can say is I have no doubt about that. Having had the good fortune for nearly 20 years to go around almost every day, I have no doubt whatsoever about the efficacy of it. If you have a doubt, give it a try and see.
The next question is, what should I do when thoughts are taking over and I follow them incessantly? It feels like I want to turn within, and at the same time, I don't.
Welcome to the club. We are all in exactly the same boat. We just have to continue trying. Yes, why our mind is going outwards? Because we have more liking to go outwards than to go within. That is, but let's be honest with ourselves. We say, oh, I'm so devoted to Bhagavan. We are not devoted to Bhagavan at all. We're still devoted to the world because our mind is still going out to the world. If we were truly devoted to Bhagavan, our mind will be going only within. So the very fact that our mind is going outward shows the inadequacy of our love. But we do have a certain degree of love, where none of us can deny that. The very fact that we're here talking about this subject means we have some interest in this subject. We have some love to turn within. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about these things. So the only way to strengthen that love is to try our best. No matter how many times the mind goes outwards, we need to draw it back within. As Bhagavan says, however many thoughts rise, so what? to whom do all these thoughts rise? That is what we need to take interest in. So when he says to whom, he's not telling us we should question to whom. He's saying we should investigate to whom. Investigating to whom means turning our attention away from the thoughts back to ourselves, the one to whom all the thoughts appear. So we have to continue trying. No matter how many times we fail, we continue trying. Sooner or later, we cannot fail to succeed if we try. We may seem to be failing, but ultimately we will succeed. But it's true what you say. We really don't have love to. We think we have love to turn within, but when we try and turn within, we find how inadequate our love is. When our mind goes outwards, it's because we have more liking to go outwards than we have to go within. So the measure of our love for Bhagavan is to what extent do we have liking to turn our mind within? To what extent are we actually turning our mind within? That is the measure of our love for Bhagavan.
The next question. Did Bhagavan ever suggest that one should seek the company of a living jnani and be in close proximity to them if possible, just as many of his disciples went to visit him in person?
No, that is, what do we mean by a living jnani? The jnani is not the body. That is one of the fundamental teachings of Bhagavan. We are not the body. And if we take the jnani, because of our ignorance, we take ourselves to be the body. If we take the jnani also to be a body, that's ignorance on top of ignorance. At least we should understand, though we seem to be the body, the jnani is not the body. That is the fundamental teaching of Bhagavan. So when people talk about living jnani, they take the jnani to be a body. Sometimes people used to ask Sadhuram, is not a living guru necessary? Sadhuram said, yes, a living guru is absolutely necessary. But if by a living guru, you mean a guru with a living body, your living guru will one day become a dead guru. What is the use of such a guru? The living guru we need is the eternally living guru. That eternally living guru is Bhagavan, because he's living eternally in our heart as I. So he alone is the real guru. He who is shining in our heart as I, that is the real guru. There's a story I sometimes tell. That is, there was a devotee of Bhagavan from Tanjore called Janaki Mata. She often used to visit the ashram. One day when she visited the ashram, she saw Bhagavan returning from the cow shed. And there were just a couple of attendants with him. So she thought to herself, oh, this is a very good opportunity. So she approached Bhagavan. She prostrated, put her head on his feet and held his ankles. And Bhagavan looked down at her with a smile and said, what are you doing? She said, I'm holding the feet of my guru. Bhagavan said, this body is perishable. These feet are perishable. If you take this body to be your guru, you will be disappointed. The feet of your guru are shining in your heart as I. Cling to those feet. They alone will save you. So the real guru, like Bhagavan, will always turn our attention not towards them, not towards the outward form, but back within. That is the function. Why Bhagavan appeared outwardly in name and form? To tell us to turn within. And if you're looking for a so-called living jnani, how are you to know who is a jnani? When you don't even know what you are, how can you know about the spiritual state of anyone else? Sometimes when people used to discuss in Bhagavan's presence, people have a way of they're very curious. Is this person a jnani? Is that person a jnani? So sometimes people will be talking this. Bhagavan will be just sitting there smiling, unconcerned about it. But sometimes people would ask, Bhagavan, is such and such a saint? Is he a jnani or not? Bhagavan sometimes replied, there is only one jnani. You are that. Know yourself and you know jnana. Jnani is not a person. Another thing Bhagavan often used to say, he often used to say, jnana me jnani. That means jnana alone is the jnani. That has a very deep meaning, because what is jnana? Jnana is pure awareness. What can know pure awareness? Only pure awareness can know pure awareness. Pure awareness cannot be an object of knowledge. So only pure awareness can know pure awareness. So only jnana alone can be a jnani. And jnana is not a human form. So that jnana, in verse 13 of Uludunapadu, he says, jnanamam tane me. Oneself who is jnana alone is real. So there's no jnana other than ourselves. So we cannot find jnana outside. We cannot go running to this Mahatma, that Mahatma, thinking he will give me Mahatma, he will give me jnana, she will give me jnana. No, it doesn't work like that. No one can give you jnana, because you yourself are jnana. In order to recognize yourself as jnana, you need to turn your attention within. So Bhagavan never encouraged us to go looking for anything outside. But all of Bhagavan's teachings are pointing us back at ourselves. And then people say, oh, but Bhagavan has composed verses in Uludunapadu Bandham. There are 5 verses on satsang. Yes, Bhagavan did compose. Well, those verses, firstly, they're all translations that Bhagavan translated on various different occasions. Secondly, Bhagavan has said a lot more about satsanga than what is written in those verses. Bhagavan often used to say, what is satsanga? What is sat is ourself. We ourselves are sat. So the best satsanga is Atma-sanga. In other words, being self-attentive, that is the best satsanga. Coming down a level, but to a lower level, keeping the mind dwelling on Guru and his teachings is also satsanga. Being in the physical presence of Guru is a lesser form of satsanga than mentally being with the Guru. But there's a story to illustrate this. There was a couple from North India. They had retired and they came and they wanted to spend their last days of their life in Bhagavan present. So they came and rented a small house in Tiruvannamalai, and they were every day they would come to the ashram and sit in Bhagavan present. At one time, some relatives of theirs from North India came to visit them. And because these relatives were staying, the lady had to remain in the house cooking for them and attending to all their needs. So they stayed for 3 or 4 days. And during those 3 or 4 days, she wasn't able to go to Bhagavan's presence. So when her relatives left, she came to Bhagavan present and she lamented to him, oh, Bhagavan, for 3-4 days, I wasn't able to come to you. And Bhagavan said, that is good. It's better that you were there thinking of here than here thinking of there. That means, what he means by that is, if she had been coming to Bhagavan's presence, she would have been thinking about her relatives. Oh, she's got to cook for them. She's got to do this. She's got to do that. So her body will be present, but her mind will not be present. It's better that she was at her home cooking for her relatives and everything and thinking of Bhagavan than being in Bhagavan's presence and thinking of that. So it's the mental contact that is more important than the physical contact. So thinking about Bhagavan is a more effective form of satsanga, even than being in his physical presence. Because we can be in his physical presence and our mind can be wandering, thinking about all our worldly problems and our problems at work, problems with family, all the problems we usually think about. We can be thinking about all those things in Bhagavan's presence. And surely there were many people who would come to Bhagavan's presence and their minds would wander off. So it's more than being in the physical presence, being mentally present, having Bhagavan, keeping the thought of Bhagavan in our mind. And the best thought to have of Bhagavan is to think about his teachings, because Bhagavan is not just that person, that name and form. That name and form came to give us teachings. So Bhagavan is ever living, ever present in the form of his teachings. And what his teachings are telling us? To constantly turn within. So satsang is never lacking. We can always turn our attention within. When our attention comes out, we can think of his teachings, we can read his teachings, we can do manana on his teachings. That is a very efficacious form of satsanga. So we need not be running here and there thinking, is this person a jnani? Is that person a jnani? If I'm in this person present, then I'll get jnana. That is all ignorance. Jnana is not to be obtained from outside. What Bhagavan's teachings are telling us is that jnana is our very nature. We can attain jnana only by knowing and being what we actually are. And we can know and be what we actually are only by turning our attention within. So running outwards, looking for jnanis outside is just a trick of ego. Ego is always looking for some excuse to go outwards. Oh, here's a jnani. Let me go. If we are looking for jnana outside, we are fooling ourselves. Jnana cannot be attained outside. Jnana can be attained only in our own heart. I hope that is an adequate answer.
Yeah, Michael, thank you. That was a wonderful answer. Thank you very much. I do, as I said, I do completely agree with you that mental contact is more important than physical contact, and distance shouldn't be no impediment. But I do find that when I did first come across Ramana Maharshi, that I was captivated by his form, and now his form for me is like a portal to the formless. It is like a Wi-Fi device to the Wi-Fi. So for me, you know, I do think there are a lot of people out there. Formless bhakti is very difficult for a lot of people, and for a lot of people, you know, they need form to connect to the formless. But I agree, the mental contact is most important. It's just that when you read, you know, I watched that documentary, The Jnani, which you were in as well, and they said that people who were in close proximity, that, you know, Ramana did radiate, you know, he emanated silence when people were in his presence. I don't know how true that is. But
Bhagavan did not emanate silence. He did not radiate silence. He is silence itself. And even now we are in the midst of that silence, but we don't see that, are not aware of that silence because we're looking outward. That silence, he is ever shining silently in our heart as eye.
Absolutely.
So people say so many things where he radiated. That is the understanding of the mind. But actually, Bhagavan's teachings are far deeper than that. It's not a matter of, some people say he transmitted something, but there's nothing to transmit. Bhagavan pointed out, turn within, you are that. There's nothing to, Bhagavan's path is not a path of transmission. Like in yoga, there's some of the Shaktas, they say they give Shakti Nipata or something, they transmit some power to you. Bhagavan doesn't transmit anything. Bhagavan's path is a path of submission, surrender. If we submit ourselves, we will find there's nothing to be transmitted because we are already that. So, yes, people will say so many things because everyone understood Bhagavan at their own level. But we should pay attention not to what people say about Bhagavan, but what Bhagavan said about Bhagavan. Bhagavan said, he is that which is shining in our heart as eye, and with heart-melting love, we need to turn within. That is the following Bhagavan's path.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If his presence was there in those 54 years that he was in Tiruvannamalai, if his presence is not here and now, then it's a very limited presence. It's limited in time and it's limited in space. We are limiting the unlimited by thinking that that 54 years when his body was present, then only he was present. Murugan in Sanidhi Murai, he has sung, the whole universe is Ramanashram. Because Bhagavan is omnipresent. He's present everywhere. So we cannot get away from Ramanashram.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think also, Michael, just one more, because if say, for example, if a devotee's stuck at a particular point, there may be some benefit. You know, a guru can come down from the mountain. Didn't Bhagavan sometimes help people? He knew where they were stuck and he would give advice applicable to that particular devotee. Isn't that sometimes helpful if you do have
are you suggesting that Bhagavan could do something more when he was in the body that he cannot do now? Again, you're limiting Bhagavan's power.
I'm just saying sometimes people probably need advice.
He knows what help we need. He gives us that help. We should be looking within. If any outward help is needed, he will provide it. Everything that is needed, all the inner help and outer help that is needed, he is providing.
Absolutely.
So the problem we're up against is our own mind. Our own mind has so much liking to go outwards, to think the physical presence, or when he was physically present, or he's not physically present now, so I must find some other physical living jnani. And so this is all symptomatic of the outward going nature of the mind. We should understand his teachings. His teachings are, but there's nothing to be sought outside, it's to be sought within. Yeah. If he wants to give us any help outwardly, he knows what help to give, he will give it. We don't have to go looking for it. What we should be looking for is looking for clarity in our own heart. That is the true satsanga, turning within. That is the most efficacious satsanga. And if our mind comes out, we have the support of his teachings to encourage us to go back within.
Yeah, no,
otherwise
absolutely.
we're just joining a circus. But in the world there's so many gurus, so many self-realized jnanis, every Tom, Dick and Harry who claims to be self-realized, or whose disciples claim to be self-realized. Are we to believe them? Let them be jnanis or let them be ajnanis. What is that to us? We need to. Bhagavan never asked us to inquire whether this person or that person is a jnani. Bhagavan said that's all Atma-vichara. His teaching is give up an Atma-vichara, take to Atma-vichara. Find out whether you are a jnani first. Before you cannot know whether others are jnanis or not until you know whether you're a jnani or not. And you cannot know whether you're a jnani until you know yourself. When you know yourself, you will find that you are nothing but jnana.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for that, Michael. Yeah, thanks.
So we need to take Bhagavan's teaching seriously. We need to think deeply about it and apply it properly. All this going outwards, seeking to this Babaji, that Mataji, and all this is all just, we are going away from Bhagavan's path. Bhagavan's path is not about going outwards, it's about going inwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if at all you want physical presence, Bhagavan is present in Aruṇācala, in the form of Aruṇācala. So we need not seek anywhere else.
I've been on the guru circuit in the last 2 years. I've just surfed around, but I've always returned back to Bhagavan. So I feel that sense of a purity when it comes to Ramana. So
yes,
yeah, no, thanks for that answer.
Right.
Cheers.
The next question.
Yes.
Is it necessary to do the Giri Pradakshina barefoot?
Yes, that is the way to do it. It is just like when we go to temple, we go barefoot. Aruṇācala is Adi Linga Sarupa. So when we go do Giri Pradakshina, it is like being in a temple, like going around the shrine in a temple. So yes, that is the appropriate way to do it.
The next question. How important is company with regard to our spiritual progress? Sometimes we cannot control the company we keep, for example, family. I find some individuals heavy in their ego, can try to interfere and cause the mind to stir when I would rather be going within. What to do about this influence?
Our outward life is determined by prarabdha. Who are the people we have to live with and have to associate with? This is all determined by prarabdha. As Bhagavan said, prarabdha affects only the outward going mind. Prarabdha can never obstruct us going within. So we are always, whatever company we are in, if we have a liking to turn within, we will turn within. If our mind is going outwards, it's because we're more interested in the outside things. We're more interested in the bad people we are with, the people who are heavy and passing judgment on them and blaming them for our outward going mind. If our mind goes outwards, no one is to blame but ourselves. We have allowed our mind to go outwards. So whatever circumstances we are in, though they may seem to us to be unfavorable circumstances, actually they're the most favorable circumstances, because whatever happens is according to prarabdha, and the prarabdha is chosen by Bhagavan for our spiritual benefit. So whatever situation we may be in, let's accept it. Thy will be done. Ninishtam enishtam, as Bhagavan says in verse 2 of Aruṇācala Patikam. Your will is my will. Imbadaku, that is happiness for me. So whatever awkward situation we're in, whatever bad company may be around us, let us not be perturbed by it. But bad company has come according to prarabdha, that is good for us. But of course, we shouldn't go out seeking bad company, but whatever happens, happens according to destiny. Our aim is to turn within, unmindful of the external circumstances.
The next question. Did Bhagavan ever comment on the power of music and its ability to purify the mind outside of silence, as in Vedanta? Sound is often said to be the most subtle of sense objects.
As far as I'm aware, he didn't. And what purifies the mind is not sound or anything. In verse 3 of Upadesha, Bhagavan says that nishkarmiya karma, done for God, purifies the mind and shows the way to liberation. But what is it that purifies the mind? It's not the karma, because the very same karma can be done for kamyata purposes. You can the same puja that you do, you can do it either for the love of God, or you can do it for gaining health, wealth, or whatever else you want. So it's not the action that purifies the mind. He says it. Kartanukakam, that means done for God. That implies done for the love of God. And in fact, in the Malayalam version of Upadesha Saram, he says, Ishwara Pritiyanai, that means for the love of God. That's what's implied in the Tamil version. So what purifies the mind is not the action, but the love with which we do the action. Because whatever the impurities in the mind, the impurities are the vasanas, the vishaya vasanas. The vishaya vasanas are our liking to go outwards. So what can remove that liking is only a liking to go within. So the love of God is, what we do for the love of God will be creating that liking to go within. So it's only the liking to go within that will purify our mind. So music per se will not purify the mind. If it is devotional music, if it helps to, if by listening to devotional songs, for example, if it helps to rouse feelings of devotion in your heart, then maybe that will purify your mind. But it's not the music that is purifying the mind; it is the love with which you're listening to that song. The love that you feel for God. That is what purifies the mind.